Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Cefic Lab, dedicated to digitalizing safety data sheets and some insights from a collaborative project or pilot initiative. We are delighted to see so many of you joining us online, and we thank you for taking the time with us today. My name is Thomas van Vletteren. I am the Technical and Safety Manager at Cefic. I also led this project from Cefic side, at least for the first part, and I will be moderating today's discussion. Before we start, we just wanted to remind you with some housekeeping, starting with compliance. This webinar will take place in full compliance with competition law. We won't talk about prices, production, transportation rates, or market procedures. And then we are also obliged to inform you that please do not use any AI tools to record this webinar or write summaries. We will share both the slides and the recording to all participants after the webinar. Just a quick look at the agenda for today. So after an overall introduction of the webinar, we will get some background on the project and some current policy context. Then the scope of the Cefic Duck digitalization initiative. We will have then a presentation of the tool and the benefits for the entire chemical supply chain, plus a live demo. And at the end, we will have time for a Q&A session before some closing words. Just before I hand out to the speakers, some logistics details. So please ensure that computer audio is selected so you can hear us perfectly. Everyone should be muted. The questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. And we have 60 minutes in total. We want to make this session as interactive as possible. So at the end of the presentations, as I said, we will have a Q&A session. To post your questions, please use the chat option in Teams. We will do our best to address as many questions as we can. Please indicate to whom you'd like the question to be asked and try to be as concise as possible. We definitely know that the information on digitalization of safety information in the supply chain is important for the industry. So we still remain at your disposal if you have any questions at any point after the webinar. In this case, please use my contact details that will be provided at the very end, at the last slide of the presentation. Now, let's have a quick look at the different speakers for today. And we start with Steven van den Broek. I'm pleased to give you the floor, Steven. Steven is the Executive Director of Product Stewardship at Cefic, and he will set the scene from Cefic's perspective. Steven, over to you.
Thanks, Thomas, and good afternoon, everyone. Also from my side, from a very warm and hot Brussels. As Thomas just mentioned, I will give a very brief introduction to the overall project and giving a bit of a background and context to everything that will be presented later on today. Before I start, maybe we can first go back 20 years in time when REACH was published. Some people might still remember 2006. REACH came out of the door, and REACH introduced it. Let's say, a new way of communicating about safe use of chemicals. Before REACH, we had the famous material safety data sheets. Some of you might still remember them, the MSDSs, which were linked to a directive of the early 90s. Then we had the safety data sheets, but REACH added another layer to it called the so-called safe use conditions, or the exposure scenarios, where the whole idea was like, if you register a chemical, you do a chemical safety assessment. In that chemical safety assessment, you determine how to use a chemical in a safe way, and then you communicate these conditions for safe use along the supply chain. I think the idea was nice. It made a lot of sense in theory. What we pretty quick found out was how we're going to do that in practice. How do we make sure that this communication in the value chain, that we remains meaningful, that we focus on, let's say, the right information, because at the end it's all about safe use. How do we make sure that this communication meets legal requirements, but also how do we ensure that it all remains workable for the industry? Because we saw quite a challenge coming our way. Safety data sheets was one thing. The additional element, the annexes, the exposed scenarios was a completely new animal. So I think everyone was a bit scratching their head is on how we're going to do this. So that it's workable for those that are generating them, but also meaningful for those receiving them. Already at the beginning, there was an idea of trying to see how can we somehow standardize this communication flow, how can we somehow automate the information flow. So we had a project, I think it started in 2010, it was called ESCOM, Exposed Scenario Communication Tool, where the idea was to generate an XML. From industry side, we got organized around that one with IT providers. We tried to deliver. We have delivered an XML, and it's still out there. Now it's become also broader. It's a whole ESDS.com. It's still out there. But a few things we found out after some time was that it was very difficult to get it broadly picked up for whatever reason. And I noticed I left the debate. I was in the debate on this at the beginning. Then I left for a few years and I returned, and I noticed that we were still having some kind of the same, more or less the same type of discussions. Despite industry always from the beginning on work together. I mean, it was manufacturers, it was downstream users, it was all the value chain actors, the distributors. We all tried to come together, even with the authorities, under the umbrella of the famous exposure scenario network of experts, ENIS, that was managed and set up by ECHA. But you felt at a certain point in time it was not really progressing anymore. Also, ECHA then decided, look, due to lack of resources, we need to reprioritize our activities. They dropped a bit their engagement, leaving industry a bit behind. That was then also a trigger for industry. Let's have a fresh look and let's see how we can still advance this. Because the weird thing was, although all the efforts and all the discussions we had, no real solution was broadly implemented or were broadly successful. But at the same time, there was still a lot of frustration because we still had PDFs of 100, 200 pages floating around in the value chain, people receiving them via email, printing them, then retyping everything into their system to generate a new safety data sheet. So you can imagine there was still a lot of manual work, and there is still a lot of manual work, which feels a bit odd in this age of digital communication and all the tools, and certainly with the, let's say, with the whole AI developments of the past 1-2 years, it feels really that odd that we cannot find a better solution. At the same time, I mean, so then this project came in, and I will not go into the project. I'll leave that one to Trien to introduce more in details the project. But I think just one final comment from my side, I think it also nicely teams up with the whole debate we were having the past few months or the past year on the whole simplification of REACH. And to me, this initiative shows that the simplification is not always with the legal text. It's not always about legal requirements. It's sometimes is really finding solutions on how to implement things. And I think that is a nice example of how, without keeping the legal framework stable, we can still advance and simplify our own life. So I think this is a very good starter. I hope it will inspire many of you. As Thomas already mentioned, looking at the high number of attendance, it seems that a lot of people are interested in that. So I hope you will all get inspired and that we can really move to the digital age on safe use communication along the value chain. Back over to you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Steven, for the introduction and for framing the importance of this topic so clearly. I'm now pleased to invite Trien Kroop, manager at Duck, to share the downstream user of chemicals perspective in this project. Over to you, Trien.
Thank you, Thomas. So first of all, I think I put in 2 slides who Duck is. It's always good to refresh everyone's minds. But if you have not heard about us, then we are the Downstream Users of Chemicals Coordination Group. We are quite a big group. We have 11 EU associations. That is more than 9,000 companies, vast majority being SMEs. And we celebrate this year 25 years of Duck. The group's main objective is to contribute with a common voice, mainly to the implementation of REACH and CLP. We have expanded our range, I think, from further than that by now, because there's chemicals policy is not only REACH and CLP, but that's how we got started 25 years ago. And here you can see our members. I'm sure, if not all, but many are very familiar names. But as I said, our group is quite large, many different sectors. So we have cosmetics, detergents, aerosols, paints, inks, toners, press room chemicals, adhesives, sealants, construction chemicals, fragrances, disinfectants, lubricants, and chemical distributor industry. So the list is quite big. So we were happy to also work with Cefic on this project. So now to the project itself. I'm sure we are all eager to see the practical demonstration by Andreas and Martin, but just a few words how we got started. So we felt that the current distribution of the safety data sheets along the supply chain, well, it's quite PDF based. There's a lot of manual data entry and it's error prone. The commercial IT tools, they do exist to automate, but we felt that they're not widely used, and they also struggle to achieve an acceptable level of conversion. So we can see that there's a limited machine readability, there's a high administrative burden, inefficient data integration, and also fragmented information flows across the supply chain. So the current system creates, as you can see, quite a few barriers to digitalization and efficiency at the EU level. So as Stephen already mentioned, ECHA needed to focus on other things. They have many different tasks in their remit. So we came up with this joint initiative from 2022 together with Cefic and DUC. And we started looking into we had a vision, let's say. So we wanted to create a system or common XML format for company-to-company electronic communication of safety data in the supply chain, and also to find digital solutions capable of decoding the XML information for effective safe use advice communication where necessary. So the objectives, we want to have an effective, meaningful, and targeted supply chain communication, and also to make sure safe use information arrives where it's needed in a timely manner to protect workers, consumers, and the environment. We then thought about, okay, let's maybe create a minimum requirement to ensure this communication. So the focus initially was selected sections of the main safety data sheet, sort of as a proof of concept. So in the slides, you will see the sections that we have started looking into first. As they already have some harmonized information, so the identification of the substance mixture and manufacturing information, then also hazard identification, composition information on ingredients, exposure controls, personal protection, physical and chemical properties. We looked also into the section 15, which is the safety, health, and environmental regulations with focus on restrictions. That was a bit more complex, but this was sort of our starting point. And the idea was then to convert the set of data fields into an XML output, then test it, and then present the pilot to our members, and then see what could come from that. So that was the big plan. But of course, today we're here to hear from Andreas and Martin to see what they come up with. And as far as I've understood, they've taken our minimum requirements and expanded even more. So we're all excited to hear their side and the demo part. But I hope this gave a good overview of where we started, and now we're going to see where we're going to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trine, for highlighting especially the collaborative dimension of this project. As you mentioned, we now turn to the practical company experience behind this pilot project, and I'm handing over to both Andreas Heller, who who is head of digital transformation and hazard communication at Merck Life Science, will present the use case and the approach taken by Merck in this context, and also to Martin Prinz, managing director at COAC, who will complement this explanation with the more technical and implementation angles. So over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. So I will start. So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Andreas Ehlers. I'm working for Merck. We have several sectors. So I'm working for the life science sector. And yeah, Stephen summarized quite well the last 20 years in life science. I have seen many things that he has described. I also had some flashbacks that I could not remember or didn't want to remember, but yes, they are still there. So setting the scenes, what are we doing in life science? So we sell many products to customers in biotech, pharmaceutical, but also R&D. So we offer more than 300,000 products. We have an e-commerce platform. So we manage more than 30 million safety data sheets in my teams, and also managing 100 million plus labels printed per year. So there's a lot of mass processing, and generating all those documents and manual processing is no longer at scale. However, we are still sharing safety data sheet as PDF or in paper form, and we are also getting the same information from our suppliers. So, and this is somehow a trap in which we are sitting, and this is not scalable anymore. So let's go to the next slide. What we have done already in the past, and here we already worked together with COAC to develop this one and many others, was to, how can we digitize our labels? So there's the requirement to have country-specific language on our labels in the life science business. A 1 liter bottle, I would consider as a very large bottle already, so they are much smaller usually. So the idea was you have a mobile app, you scan the data matrix code, which is on our labels, and then if you click, can you please click? Then you have an app, a mobile app, and then it shows you all the information from the label in your country language that have you set up. So it's not just having a large PDF on a small mobile device, but really having the information available. We created an API. We have all our products on a data lake application. And this was the first use case, so developed 6 years ago, where we can say, yes, this is a way forward into the future. So our customers can access our data by digital means, but the exchange with others is still missing. So it's a one-way direction. Next slide, please. How are we managing supplier communication today, or communication within the supply chain? So we are also using digital tools. Beside the digital tools, the process itself hasn't changed that much since the last 20 years. So we are receiving information by our suppliers, hopefully by email, very often also as paper, as PDF, as paper safety data sheets, if you click. And then what we are doing, we are then comparing the information from the supplier with our own data, and if there's any derivation and dangerous goods or GHS classification, and therefore also like the selection of DUC for very helpful. So I mean, not every data element has the same priority for us in communication in the supply chain. We are then comparing to our data, and if there's any difference, we will do the necessary action. Please click. And as you can see, we are getting here a lot of information. I mean, it's the same with digital tools, but it's still document-based. Next slide, please. So we are still using documents as a carrier for digital information, or we transform a lot of information in our huge digital systems and bring them in a format which is not really suitable for data exchange. So our vision is to provide a structured, machine-readable data exchange for our customers, but hopefully also in the future from our suppliers. As we believe that the future of chemical safety communication lies in the structured machine-readable data, so that you have a seamless integration into workflows and other systems. If your supplier updates the safety data sheet, you don't want to check your email box. It would be great if you would have it directly in the systems available where you need it, in occupational health and safety systems, electronic lab notebooks, or whatever. You would also like to reduce data discrepancies. We are doing in the hazard communication arena a lot of transfer work, which is not always nice for our experts. They should really focus on new regulations that are out there instead of doing this transfer work. For us at Merck in Life Science, the trigger was an initiative by the German Chemical Industry Association, VCI, where there had been two groups. The one group is saying the safety data sheet as PDF is enough. The other one is saying there must be something better. So we looked for something better, and then we said, okay, it's a hen-egg problem. If no one moves, the ESDS-COM as a format will never be touched or will never be tested if it really fits the needs in the process industry, in the life science industry. And we think if we can provide something to our customers, we can make our customer happy. So at least they will be more satisfied as they get the data ready to use into their system. And our hope is also that we can influence industry standards from an early beginning. As someone said in the chat, digital product passport is in front of us. This is very similar, or aspects of the digital product passport is exchanging of the material-based information. How to do this? I don't want to put a PDF into this new format. And at the end of the day, we will not have a document, but we will have integrated data that can be used across the supply chain. Next slide, please. So how did we do this? So the project somehow came up in end of 2024. And then we started the implementation of the ESDS-COM standard during the 2025. So we did a lot of mapping exercises, one of the biggest tasks that we had, and end of 2025, the pilot was ready to present to internally to various stakeholders. So especially here from marketing and e-commerce. Since 2026, we are still busy, or again busy with mapping, as we have changed the format of our templates. So we have to do a remapping exercise again, and now we are working on the integration of our offering into existing e-data offerings that we have for strategic accounts, and then also integrating into our B2B and e-commerce platforms. Next slide, please. And just to be very clear, so the left-hand side, you can say this is the old school side, where you have a methanol safety data sheet. You get it from your supplier, you get it from us, and yeah, you can read it, you can print it out. That's all great. But if you really want to have the information which is relevant to you available at a glance, then such a structured format that you can see on the right-hand side, which is the XML representation of this slide, will help you enormously, because you can directly fetch the endpoints that you're interested in. If you're working more on the occupational health and safety data, you can put the focus on those parameters. If you're working in warehousing, so all this information is transparent. And if you really think about how the requirements have changed, like communication in the supply chain does also mean prepare for CSRD reporting, substance of concern, substance of very high concern, how to bring the data into your internal systems. So I would say the right-hand way, the new school way, is the way forward. Next slide, please. And just as a summary from my end, so I definitely believe that a PDF-based SDS do no longer support digital supply chain. That's a matter of fact. We heard if you really want to use the information from your supplier, you need to bring it into your system, and this is transfer work, even if we do it by digital systems, which is not necessary, and it does not serve the purpose of communication in the supply chain anymore. And we should really transform the regulatory obligation that we have to do anyway, provide a safety data sheet, into a safety and business value, so that the carrier or the format really serves the purpose. Just to name two examples, what we think could change the world or how we work today. we have heard from many companies and also internally that the integration into electronic lab notebooks could be a way forward. So imagine you're a researcher in the lab and you are using our products or of any other supplier, and he's offering those XML safety data sheets. And this information would be directly visible in your lab notebook, inform you about the hazards, how to protect you, glove material, etc., or any other use case that you have. And what we also hear from our customers, mainly from the pharma business, is that those strategic accounts asking for more and more digital offerings. At the moment, this is very much focused on quality-related data. But we haven't talked with their regulatory partners in the system who is more interested into the safety. And we think that the expansion of these offerings with XML safety data sheet content could really close the gap that we see today and create transparency within the supply chain on hazardous chemicals. And what we also observe today from a customer perspective, they ask more and more which one of your products are regulated by substance of concern, substance of very high concern. So this is also a strong driver from our perspective for digitalization. And with that, I would like to hand over to Martin. So he was always an inspiration the last 10 years for any digital topic, where we said, okay, we have now made the egg. We need now someone who is sharing our digital safety data sheet with other people so that we get feedback. Are we doing a good job? Are we doing a bad job? Or here we need to improve. So Martin, stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andreas. I will now show a bit how this then really looks like in action and what we did with this task force basically that Trine also then introduced. And I think, yeah, perhaps a few words to COAG. So we are a German-based company in Cologne and Berlin. And yeah, we have a quite strong footprint in the area of product compliance analytics and also AI. We are now also looking into federated systems and like data spaces, for example. And we really work in this direction of yeah, sovereign IT, sovereign AI also. And yeah, we are supporting the ESDS Com work group for quite a while already, for some years. And we try to always support it in the area of adoption, also in the chemical industry. That was difficult. And I think now with the right tools, it is possible. And I think the great message is that we were able to achieve it. And the initiator and really the trigger for us then was on the one side, really the working group for the ESDS core minimum requirements, where we thought about, yeah, how could we make this quite complex digital SDS also handleable by industry and adoptable. And on the other side, really Merck, who I think really thought really some steps ahead here. And also then Andreas and I were in contact, and then I learned that Merck wants to support it. And that was for me like this, yeah, magic combination, let's say, where I thought, okay, then let's try to make this happen. And yeah, that is also some time back now. Yeah, so we invested a lot of time. I think that is what we can say and share. But the objective of the work group was really to yeah, use this offering now of Merck Life Science and create benefits as soon as possible. And what I did is I then contacted a few of our customers where they're already using artificial intelligence to collect the data from the PDF files to then bring it to SAP. Typically, and here I could find more partners from industry who are really willing to also work in this direction to really make it happen. And so we started basically a first batch, how we called it, with a few to think about yeah, how this could work. And in the beginning, we then created a technical concept, how we could manage the XML in context with all the system interfaces to make the adoption easy to use, and also aligned to the IT architecture of the organizations. And that went pretty good. I invited then more industry partners basically to join to get more feedback. And yeah, I think overall we have really a great group here of really visionary thinkers who want to make that happen, and who have also invested a lot of time then in this topic to work on it, and then basically think also ahead of just yeah, a file and a protocol, but also to think about then an end-to-end process. How should it be that we can adopt it? And part of that working group is Altana. We have BASF, Bayer, Clara, Evonik, Henkel, and of course Merck. And here I would like to now take over the screen, right? And just show a bit, yeah, what are we talking about? And that is the XML file that we started with. Here you can see also some annotations for the minimum requirements that Trine introduced, what we worked on first conceptually in an Excel sheet, and then basically we brought it into the XML file that will be also published on GitHub very soon for everyone then to download. And here we basically marked most relevant attributes and information that we want to yeah, use in this minimum requirements. Quite interesting is yeah, that in the end, when we really processed and tested it in this then federated ecosystem, we noticed that in the end it would be great to have all data from the SDS and not just the minimum set. So that was a evolvement, you could say, throughout the last year then basically. But yeah, nevertheless, I think it's anyways an important delivery. Yeah, and this is how this all looks like. Andreas has already shared it. We have some great information here inside that we can use then much more compressed to exchange information. What I want to show you now is that how it works, how it really looks like then in action. And therefore we jump to a demo system. So overall, the Merck Life Science data is now integrated into the safety.cloud environment. This is an environment that basically everyone can access and Merck can share the data to. The connectivity now from the demo system to this safety cloud system is in place, and what we really set up here is like a federated system. Yeah? So the idea was that every organization has the possibility to handle their data. That is very important for us also when we think about the democratic values basically we want to establish in automation, because it means that everyone who owns the data is also able and capable to manage this. And what we can do now in the environment is we can here select one of the instances from the participants of the task force, and the Merck information is now integrated using the ESDS-COM standard into the safety cloud. And with my instance, I can now here search for Merck first. I can also filter it then, and then I always use the aceton to demo it. We can search for the aceton products here from the Merck Life Science business. And what now is happening when I click on one of the elements, then I can basically load the information live from the safety cloud instance into my own instance. I can already see the information that the supplier has proactively shared with me. So what I want to share in a federated system, of course, is also configurable. and I can look into this now and make some decisions. Is it really the raw material that we purchased that we are interested in? And now I, of course, have a lot of content here that I get via this data stream. And the next step to now make really use of it, I need to get this into my local instance. And this is what I can do when I create a local copy. I can here select basically a storage location first that I want to load that data in. I have some standards here that are mainly coming from the SAP architecture and data model. And what I can do now is I can copy that data over from the instance where the Merck data is to my own instance. And what is now happening is we are basically transforming the content we received into our own phrases catalog. Who's working with SAP knows this. So we have multiple languages that we want to be able to support. And for this, we use basically phrases catalogs that just make sure that the content is the same in Andreas, I think you mentioned 45 different languages and that this is in place. We use here the UFRAC catalog in that scenario to process the data. What I want to show you now, just to show you how quick and what really the benefits are now, if we have machine readable data, I can go to the Store to SAP page, and I can basically see here the information that I received. I can see here my phrases that have been used to reflect the information that I received, that the models basically looked for. And now I can, of course, make corrections here, adjustments, and so on. We don't want to do this here now, but we want to be able to store this now to SAP into our demo system. And that is, the case. I have basically a record here, what has been transferred and stored to my system. And I see here on the right side now the real life data coming back from the SAP system. I can go through this again, make some adjustments. Perhaps I don't have a few phrases, for example, that I then can use, but yeah, just the most important features are then set. Here, of course, is an example where we have no phrase reflecting none, so it's also not stored. So there's a lot of automation in place. And for some companies, it makes a lot of sense if they are, for example, storing really supplier information into the SAP system, then we have a high degree of automation here, we could say. So that's the first part. Great is that now I also get notifications when Merck has released a new version, for example, for that material, and I then can process it again, etc. pp. What we I think really learn from real life is that there is much more checkups required if you are harmonizing your raw material data and so on. So there's definitely more in the details, let's say, that has to be done, let's say. Yeah. I can see a version history, of course, so there's a lot of functionality around that I can use, that I can also work with. Yeah, what is another scenario? So this was really like the scenario I want to search in one of my federated instances. I can then see the data they have shared with me. And here we identified that there are basically two scenarios. One is that companies have just public raw materials. They want to share it with everyone who is basically connected. And then we have perhaps also customer-specific information that is just shared on decision, basically, with specific customers. Both is possible. Both I can basically do and allow. The other option would now be, we call that an assessment, to be able to basically assess and just load all data that a supplier has shared with me. And here we have Clariant and BASF, for example, that have also prepared information here for the federated system. And I can now open the BASF QA, and I can see here some materials that are available that are here now possible for consumption on the demo environment. What I can do is I can create now an assessment with a specific scope. So I can select here what we call a passport. This is in the end just data attributes that I need to process for my specific raw material management. And then I can define here that this is data for the EMEA region. And then I can process it. And what the system now does, basically, it's pulling out the raw material information from the BASF specific instance and creating something that we call this assessment. This takes some time, yeah. So there is really now the data load happening, the AI models are running, and all the information is interpreted and loaded. This is this record here on top. I've prepared a few assessments already before. We can just open one. But what is happening here is really that we have a solution implemented for a mass data loading, basically. So I can load a lot of raw materials that I'm purchasing. And of course, our demo system is very limited. But here you can see that we have also some matches for some raw materials with our demo system in place that I can now review, etc. And here we are really going in this direction of a much, much more efficient data exchange using the digital information from the XML and so on, where we can save a lot of time and where we can really get more automation in place. What we also did is we have implemented and tried out a solution for notifications, that the raw material experts get a notification if some raw material of this bucket basically has a new version, and the auto update is really the approach of storing the data end-to-end into my SAP system, and only notifying an expert in case data could not be correctly interpreted. So also this is possible and can be used in case the system architecture does allow it. All right, yeah, that's the overview. I think what I learned is that it's sometimes a bit difficult to imagine what now all happened. So therefore, there is this very little animation that just should show what has happened. We have the ESDS.com files going into the safety cloud. And then we have the safety enterprises for the Altana, BASF, Henkel, Evonik, and so on clients. And all these instances can basically communicate and exchange information, send requests, get an answer, send updates. Information is synchronized with the SAP systems. And of course, we can still, and I think this is very important when we think a step ahead, include PDF files from suppliers using AI, because we still have business also outside of Europe, for example. And here, perhaps we still have to be able to handle PDF files. And with that, it's a very powerful mesh, you could say, where really sovereignty, data ownership is a key principle to keep this in place. Okay. Yeah, overall, what we now want to do is we want to basically start batch 3 That means that we want to involve more industry partners. We have discussed in the task force that it's important. It's a slowly growing task force to adapt to it. There is much more automation possible overall, but you're very much invited to scan the QR code here. There is a very simple form where basically we want to do a follow-up call, sharing more details basically on what we have done to everyone who's interested. So batch 3 should focus on the process industry. And in batch 4, we then want to also involve discrete industry and technology partners. And then, of course, we want to scale that environment. Yeah, we are, of course, also in ChemX involved from Coag. And there we build basically the digital data space for the chemical industry. The ESDS-COM is also adopted to the Catena-X association. So there's more to come for sure. And yeah, I hope we can really drive this forward, create a resilient supply chain, also a much more efficient supply chain with the technologies we built here. But yeah, like I said, you're invited to join and to participate. Everyone who wants to contribute in this federated democratic ecosystem. That's the idea. Back to you.
Many
Thomas.
Thanks, Andreas and Martin, for this very concrete explanation and for the live demo. I think it was very clear. Now we have approximately a bit more than 10 minutes to answer as many questions as possible. So let me take from the chat. So I saw that some people did not indicate to whom the question was intended. So I'll do my best. But of course, if other speakers want to respond, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and I will give you the floor. Maybe the first one. Since Andreas, you mentioned the digital product passport, I can start with you. So considering the ongoing development of the DPP according to ESPR and other sectorial legislations and digital material passport, DMP according to ChemX, would it make sense to move in this direction, meaning the direction of our products, instead of using different digital models?
I think both go hand in hand. The digital product passport will be not available for all life science products that we put on the market. And for us, it was also like the ESDS-COM XML setup was an asset test to really see, are we able to set up such an infrastructure? Because if we cannot do that, then we cannot make a digital product passport. So I think both go hand in hand, and both will have their use case where it fits the best, and they are not against each other, they are complementary.
Thank you. Then the next question, I believe it's for Martin. How does electronic exchange improve data discrepancies when several suppliers of one substance provide several different classifications and not even the properties are identical?
Yeah, I think the mechanism here to exchange it digitally is not a solution for data quality problems. Yeah, so if your suppliers provide wrong information or inconsistent information, then what I think we really here can support is the transparency. Yeah, to give really experts all the tools and information at hand to make then the right decisions. If we think further, I mean, we're doing a lot of AI. Perhaps we can also create assistance here. I'm personally also hoping more and more for EKChem, yeah, that we have one database there with a single point of truth for ingredients and pure specifications, let's say. But here, what we try to do is to get away from documents and turn into data exchange, make that much easier and faster available. And with that, I think it's the first step towards solving data quality issues.
Thank you. Another question for you, Martin, regarding the language. So why did we work with XML instead of JSON, which is arguably better suited for using with APIs and more data first versus XML that is considered more of a document first ideology and is more complex to handle? What drove this decision?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
may I answer this question?
Sure, of course, Andreas.
Because my experts said at the first, when we implemented the XML, make a JSON, and we have both. So I think there's an API having the JSON and there's the XML, so both use cases are covered. So we didn't just make the XML, it's also the JSON, the interface available that you can call, because yeah, we want to go away from a document. So Martin, if you want to add.
Yeah, I think first of all, the XML is from my perspective not easier or harder to handle. XML also provides much more functionality in the area of really clearly describing how data should be situated, right? So therefore, I think it's a great starting point. Well, what happened, I think, is that the adoption, when we look into web technologies and other things, was definitely more in this JSON direction, because you can just build things faster also. With safety, we also support both. Yeah, so in the end, we support the XML, we support the JSON, and we support also with the EDC, also data space communication, and we support the interface to the SAP systems, right? And with that, I think it's just a question of flexibility. But what I can share is that Dirk Henkels from the ESDS-COM workgroup has built a SUM model out of it. So for in Catena, that's a great achievement, because with that we can derive a lot of different standards from it.
Yeah, thank you. I think you covered partially this question, but I'll still ask it anyway for completeness. I think many companies have implemented SAP EHS by now. Will this new approach be compatible? And what has been your experience with this?
Compatible, or I mean, in the end, it's integrated, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna what we do, and that was from the task force really objective, to make this integration to SAP as easy as possible, and really use the synergies of having SAP in the supplying side, to have SAP on the receiving side, and to use the different standards and SDSCOM then to ship the data basically between systems A and B. And that's what we really played through. What do we need besides just the data and the protocol to make that then really happen? And I think the great thing we can show here is that we have a production system where we have Merck sharing the XML with their own technology stack basically onto the safety cloud. And then we have basically all the enterprise instances of the federated system that also share the data with the safety technology stack, and all of this is interconnected. And in the future, other technologies can then also connect to that federated ecosystem and join to share data, to consume data, etc. Until today in the task force, we agreed to some policies, and one policy was also the companies who want to consume also needs to share, right? So, and I really like that idea a lot. Of course, we have some companies downstream that do not have so much to share because they build a consumer product from chemicals, for example. But in general, this is something that is defined, and I think also a great step, because if you want to benefit, then you also need to contribute. Yeah.
Thank you. Now a question for Stephen. In our experience, there is a lot of interest in the digital SDS transfer from downstream users. However, in order for this to work, the major raw material suppliers would need to offer such digital solutions. And so far, the interest at the raw material suppliers, at least in my experience in this case, seemed limited. Are there any plans at Cefic how to advertise and help rolling out digital SDS across the industry?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, and that's exactly the reason why we're organizing this Cefic Lab, is to promote and to showcase the new tool. Promote maybe so much, but at least to showcase the new tools. I think that's what we have been doing as Cefic always. We try to, if there are tools available, we put them on the website. We show them to the members. We also participated in this whole pilot project. But at the end, it's always a company-specific decision whether to or not to move to a digital system and which one. And that will be always with the companies. And of course, at a certain point in time, it's about getting a critical mass, and then things will automatically follow. But that's a debate we have had from the early days on. And I would say, besides promoting and making people aware that these tools are available, that's the main role of Cefic. And then it's up to the companies to take the decisions.
Thank you, Stephen. Now maybe a question for Trine. Talking about digital supply chain, do you see here as well as possible improvement for downstream use communication purposes? Either, for example, rather automatically include rich regulatory numbers from suppliers in SDS for mixtures, extracting relevant use or exposure information for exposure scenarios creation and so on. Do you see that as a possible improvement in the supply chain?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the digital supply chains, we can improve our downstream communication, but I think we're also talking about in terms of data flow than maybe a full automation. But yeah, for sure, if we have structured data, it makes it easier to transfer registration numbers into mixtures and reuse also the exposure information for the exposure scenario development. I think we're all looking for ways to reduce manual work and improve consistency to also help our companies to check whether the users are covered.
Thank you, Trine. And just a last question for Andreas to close. So in the past, when we worked on this topic, it was difficult to get engagement from all stakeholders. Would digitalization also be an improvement if only part of the companies adopt this, or would this need to be a legal requirement in your opinion, Andreas?
A legal opinion would make it easier, but the legal opinion would probably propose a solution that no one likes. So hopefully the market will decide. So if you have added digital offerings for your customers, that they can directly consume data, that they will then decide to buy your products that might be more expensive, but have this extra value that will save time. So I would not say let's regulate it here completely, because then nothing is done. I hope the market will now regulate it, and the need and the hunger for digital solution will hopefully help us in the next years to have a different world in 5 years from now. Crossing fingers. Maybe it's still the same.
Thank you for these optimistic last words. So sorry, we did not have the time to cover all questions, so we'll make sure to discuss with the speakers and get back to you for those who were not covered today. Thank you all for attending, and for the speakers. Before I leave you, there is a feedback survey, so please fill it out so we can help improving those kind of webinars. Again, I want to thank all the speakers and the participants, and I wish you a very nice rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.